Okay, we're here. We're here, and the microphone is on, which is good because I recorded the video without it on prior. So, hi. It's a little weird for me to be doing a game review this casually, especially just off the cuff. You can see me in my oversized Costco shirt I got. This thing is massive, but it's very comfortable. And I want to talk about Fallen Order today. So, for reference, I would consider myself I don't know if I'd call myself a Star Wars fan because I'm not like super passionate about it, but there's a lot of stuff I have seen of Star Wars. So to go over my track record, I have seen A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back. Well, okay, I've seen the movies. I've seen the Clone Wars. I played The Force Unleashed and one other game I think based around the Clone Wars. I can't remember the name of, and I'd consider myself a pretty moderate fan. I think I like four. I like five. I like parts of six. I don't know. I don't think that movie's that great upon rewatch nowadays, but I still think it's cool. I like parts of one and two. Not that many parts, but I do. And I really like three. I don't really like any of seven, eight, or nine. But I'm happy they exist for the people who do like them. Don't let me take that away from you if you do enjoy them. I just don't particularly ball with the well that'd be for another video. And I like Clone Wars. I like Clone Wars. It's been like 2 million years since I've seen it, but I still think it's pretty cool. And I wanted to talk about this game because I played Fallen Order, I played Jedi Survivor, and I normally make overarching like hour-ish long videos talking about like everything to do with the game. And with these, I don't really think I have that much to say. So I just kind of want to make a casual video off the cuff. I don't know which it is, just to kind of talk about it. So to start, I really like Fallen Order. I think it's a good game. It's very customizable, specifically with difficulty. I beat it on the second highest difficulty. I don't remember what it was because I know in Jedi Survivor the hardest difficulty is Jedi Grandmaster because I beat it on that difficulty and it was like pulling teeth. But I beat it on the second to highest difficulty, which I thought was a very good place for me at the time. I really enjoyed myself all the way through, and I want to get out the way that if you're like a very traditional Star Wars fan, like 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, you'll definitely find something to like here. I would recommend it. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, I think I still would recommend it. I think it's a pretty good game. Basically, it's about this dude named Cal Kestis, and he's a Padawan he's a Padawan who survived Order 66, and he's in hiding. He gets found out, and now he has to go on this weird social studies field trip ish kind of thing. This isn't really a spoiler since it's the opening. Like, you find this out almost immediately from the tutorial, but basically, there's this holocron, which is a big fancy word for like storage device in Star Wars. And on it is a list of force sensitive children everywhere in the galaxy. And one of the Jedi thought it'd be appropriate to hide this list behind a social studies fact hunt on this tribe that studied the Force. So if you want that sweet holocron, man, you gotta learn all about this crazy tribe you've never heard of, who also happen to study the Force and all that. It's kind of silly, but I kind of liked the concept the further I got into the game, thinking, man, this guy was just ridiculous hiding hiding this behind that. But I guess it did make it significantly safer, so that makes sense. And over the time, you get to know Cal and his companions, and it's a really cool dynamic, one that I think kind of needs more dialogue to work better. I think it's like, by the end of the game, Cal, he spent a lot of time with his companions, and they're great, but the problem is you don't really get a ton of that in game. You just do sometimes, and you can talk to them, which you do. You don't just ignore them the whole game, but I just felt like there wasn't enough. But outside of that, I think the story is really good. I think the last act is a little weaker but the final boss ending just kind of makes up for it. It's a really good game, but there's a few things that hold it back from me from really saying it's like the best, like definitive, I guess just Star Wars game it could possibly be. For one, you're basically fighting. There's basically three factions. Without getting into anything too deep, there's the Empire. There's like bounty hunters slash outlaws, and there's wildlife. Now it has been a couple months since I played, so it might have been like 2-ish months since I played because I played all the Jedi Survivor before I made this video. But you know, but there's basically three major types from what I remember, and the wildlife is varied, but to me, they're not that interesting to fight. I really like fighting the Empire in the game. I kind of wish they had more variety to their units, but Jedi Survivor came out, and I'll talk about that too, probably just right after I finish this video. And the bounty hunters are cool. I don't remember all of the bounty hunters. I remember they had quite a few types, and I think overall it was a good inclusion to have them. And I think where Fallen Order really excels is in its set pieces. Specifically, when the game has set up a set piece for you to run through, and they've really curated all the level design and strength, and there's still side paths so you can get that cool exploration, so it's not like totally open, but it's just focused enough for you to really feel like this is personalized. I'm going through. I've got a task at hand, and it works. It works really well. And I think the boss encounters that are in the game are really cool. I think variety is kind of needed. Granted, there are only, I don't know, maybe 6 bosses I can think of off the top of my head in the game, and 3 of them are animals. No, I know there's more than that because there's a lot of animal fights, but I guess that would be my other major complaint. I feel like I don't think this is actually true. This is just how I feel looking back on the game and during it. Is I felt like I was fighting animals and just kind of lack of humanoids or any other characters in the game. I felt like I was spending more of my time being like Bear Grylls as opposed to like being a Jedi facing off with the Empire. And there's nothing really wrong with that game design, especially given that's the first one. I don't really click enough with the animal fights for them to really stay interesting to me. As I said, we were on the second highest difficulties, and I still died, I think, to like the rams in a specific area quite a bit. So maybe, it's not like all me. I just much preferred the fights with like the actual Empire themselves. But I think overall, it's a very strong first entry to the games. I really like Cal. I like his character a lot. That's got to be one of my favorite things about the game. I like his friends. I like the worlds you explore. I like the gameplay. It gets more varied as you play the game. It really evolves over time, which I really like. It kind of reminds me of Hollow Knight with how you start off and your base moveset is like, it's playable, but it's like, it just feels like there's something missing. And as you play through the game, you unlock more and more stuff. You can go back to previous areas to get more. And I like that quite a bit. Exploration is also just really, really cool. I really like the exploration in Fallen Order. I feel like I never really had much reason to go back to other planets, which is kind of a downer. But the map in the game makes it really easy to do that and go back and find stuff, which I really like. It's very much a friendly game for exploration. It's not a pain, and it just gets easier as you go through, which is nice. Combat is also really good. Parrying feels good. I said this in the video that I have my mic on with, but it has good game feel, and I know that's like a bad word. Like you shouldn't say it when reviewing something because it's really difficult to articulate how parrying feels in a game like this as opposed to Sekiro. Like there's a very large difference with how it actually plays out, and that's okay. I just wish I had a better way to kind of convey that, but it feels good. Fights feel good and fair. I don't really have any problems with any of them in this game I can think of. I guess the same probably goes for Jedi Survivor, but that's, we'll get there when we get there. And I really just particularly enjoy, I think, just about all the planets and set pieces. The problem isn't really the game's length. The problem is there's just kind of a lack of variety, I feel like, in base encounters, which is kind of a downer. They never really evolve but beyond. There's the Empire, and sometimes the Empire is there fighting some wildlife. And that's kind of it. Now, granted, this is all from one playthrough. That was like 2 months ago. There might have been more that I just have forgotten about, but this is what has been sticking with me, you know? And I really wish that there was just more units, mainly for the Empire, but as said, that did get rectified in the sequel. Combat is cool. Skill trees are fine. I think they were like vastly improved upon in the second game, but the actual like skill trees themselves are cool. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff there that I kind of wish just wasn't an upgrade. But then again, you know, things would be pretty samey. And I also wasn't huge on combat being the same unless you got a ton of upgrades in the lightsaber skill tree. Otherwise, you just kind of stick to what you got. But it's okay. As I said, I'm not opposed to it. And one thing that I kind of wish I got to play around more with was the Force. It all feels very limiting. But this is like this was Respawn's first attempt at a Star Wars game. So at the core of it, I do think it succeeds. I think it succeeds at everything it needs to, and the gameplay does evolve in terms of combat over time. Parrying works, it feels good, dodging feels good, healing is great, and there's just a lot overall to the game that I think is like largely a strong suit. I just really think that the galaxy itself in the game really works. It feels very complete. I would much rather they adapt this into a movie, I feel like, honestly. It's a good story, even with the ridiculousness of you're studying about this random tribe so that you can get the world's or the galaxy's most important list. I don't know. There's something about it that's very charming to me. And as you slowly meet more and more people, things just keep getting better and better. And I like that. I like that quite a bit. Characters have depth, they have reasons. Even if I don't fully understand all of their reasonings, I think it's neat that they're there. I think the biggest letdown for me in this game has to be the boss fights. But other than that, I would recommend it. I would especially recommend it on PC. This is a very clean PC port. For me. I can't speak to anybody else, but I had a no problem experience, which is great because my PC does not always be balling with stuff past 2005, but that's okay. I think that's about all I have to say on the game, which is a little weird because it's a very long and emotional journey through the game. There's a lot to it that you wouldn't think of at face value, and my favorite thing in the game has to be the set pieces, and my least favorite thing about the game has to be the lack of variety overall. But I think the game largely doesn't overstay its welcome, and there's like a bonus mode at the end where you can do a bunch of like super hard boss fights if you're like a masochist. And overall, I would recommend it. I think it's a great game, and I I just find myself just kind of a little disappointed about the like lack of humanoids. But it was their first try, you know, and there was Jedi Survivor. And the final like nail in the coffin for me that I would recommend buying the game with is just maybe the sound design. I don't know. The sound design in the game really works. Now, granted, I couldn't tell you a single song from the soundtrack off the top of my head. I couldn't even hum one, but I could tell you that all the sounds largely make you feel like you're going on an adventure in Star Wars. And I know that's something a lot of people who really still love the story care about. If there's any left, I can't tell you. I don't keep up with Star Wars, but I like Fallen Order. And it's a lot better than you may previously think. And if you're coming into it with the background of like a Dark Souls fan, it's very different. It's very, very different. I would recommend watching some gameplay of like the first area. The first area isn't really great in terms of enemy design. That's really representative of what is in the game, but I think it's very important to kind of get an idea down of the gameplay because it just feels very strange coming from like I was playing Night Rain prior to playing this, and it feels very different coming from Night Rain to this. Now, granted, totally different combat systems, right? Just because you can roll and block doesn't make it like a Dark Souls game, but there's weird similarities, like with the bonfires, quote unquote, which are, they're basically the same, but combat and fights just play very differently. It's a good balance, but it's just a very different experience. So I would come in with an open mind. I wouldn't boot this up and expect it to be like Dark Souls, but that's really all I have. I told you I didn't really have a... Sorry, I'm a little sick. I told you I didn't really have too much to say about the game, but I would recommend it. The PC port worked for me. I hope to God it works for you, but this didn't really seem to have any problematic postings that I saw, but I also didn't look very hard. But yeah, I would recommend Fallen Order, and that's really all I have. You can catch me on my main channel, Public Doma, where I have incredibly long videos about games, and sometimes music, very rarely, but sometimes I sneak it in there. And outside of that, you can also catch me live, which will probably be on YouTube for a little bit. I haven't decided quite yet, but we'll figure it out. I love you all, and that's it. I hope you check out Fallen Order. I really do, because there is a lot there. There's a lot there that I really think you can enjoy. And I think a lot of people would enjoy the game, but just don't know it. But if you're not like a big fan of the universe of Star Wars, well, you're not escaping that there. So I probably wouldn't recommend it in that case. But if you like games of the genre, this may not be the best fit, but it kind of scratches that itch a little. But just be prepared for a very different gameplay loop. But that's all I got. So I'll see you guys later.